The Qatar GP went all in the spotlight for Mercedes, but for all the wrong reasons. The Turn 1 crash has brought back some Barcelona 2016 vibes, where both of the Silver Arrows crashed into each other, and while the tension back then was much higher than it is right now, due to the fact that Mercedes had a championship-winning car at the time, this one should not be underestimated under any circumstances. For 2 races in a row, Russell and Hamilton are going head-to-head, and this time it was the younger Brit who got on top of things. And his amazing race after the crash made a statement on how he plans to integrate things in Mercedes for the foreseeable future. Mercedes' sprint and qualifying weekend were going pretty decently, especially Friday's qualifying session for Sunday's event, where they managed to qualify P2 and P3 with Russell and Hamilton respectively. It was supposed to be a great weekend for them, and a weekend in which they could gather a lot of points in the respective fights for P2 in both championships. This was further aided by the fact that Sainz didn't start the race due to a fuel supply issue, so it was all set for a Mercedes showdown if we were to exclude the race win. But the Turn 1 accident, in which both drivers blamed themselves right at the beginning of the race, made headlines and was definitely the talking point of the entire race. Right when Hamilton was trying to cut the corner sharply and use the bigger amount of grip he had on the soft compound tyres compared to the medium compound of Russell and Verstappen, he seemed to have judged the corner badly, and that led to his right rear wheel clipping Russell's front left wheel. The dramatic collision reminded us of the 2016 Barcelona GP, where the tension between both of the drivers was as high as it has ever been in the Mercedes days. And the last thing that any team principal wants to see is both of his drivers colliding with one another. Now, while many think that this is not that much of a big deal since both of the drivers brushed it off after the race, it does hold some potential to shake things up at Mercedes for the foreseeable future. And what's even more important is that it shows that Russell is not ready to back down to anyone while being part of Mercedes. Right when the crash happened, Russell was visibly angry with Hamilton, and on the team radio, he emphasized that this is the second time it's happened in 2 consecutive races, going back to Japan. Both of them had similar starts and were fighting for track position. Here, however, the worst scenario that happened was Hamilton pushing Russell a bit wider than he should have, but then Wolff came on set and made sure that things wouldn't escalate to something bigger, as both of the drivers were on a different strategy, and the Austrian had to make sure that Russell would let Hamilton by in the last 4 laps of the race, as they were under huge threat from Sainz. This time, however, there wasn't any fight to participate in, as Hamilton retired in lap 1, and when asked if he's okay by his team engineer, he ironically said, "Yeah, just got taken out by my own teammate." But if we were to analyse the entire situation, it was truly a brave and yet immature move by Hamilton, because at the point of the Turn 1 entrance, Russell had nowhere to go when Hamilton tried to do the ambitious overtake on both of the cars due to the massive grip he had on the soft compound tyres. After watching the replays, Hamilton opened up about the entire situation and spoke to the media about it, elaborating, "I just obviously felt a tap from behind, but I don't think George had anywhere to go. Yeah, it's just one of those really unfortunate situations. I'm happy to take responsibility as the older one. I've watched the replay and it was 100% my fault, and I take responsibility. Apologies to my team and to George." What Hamilton and Russell tend to forget in these position-fighting situations for 2 races in a row is that they're not capable of winning championships just yet. So while this fight might seem like a great one in their eyes at the time, they have a common enemy that they need to beat first before they start the fight for who will be the dominant driver in their team. 2023 has gone massively in Hamilton's favour, as he's been able to keep up with Perez and reduce the lead for P2 to just 30 points, which would have been much lower had it not been for the accident he had in Qatar, considering that the Mexican driver had yet another inconsistent weekend. But right now, Mercedes drivers are giving the impression that they're working one against the other, and while the first guy you want to beat on the track is your teammate, there are limits to the fight when you're not the fastest and most dominant car on the grid. As we speak, Hamilton's lead over Russell has shrunk to 62 points, 13 less than it was before the beginning of the Qatar racing weekend, and with 5 races to go, while the chances of being overtaken by his teammate are slim to none, they are still existing if scenarios like this continue to happen. What's even more dangerous for Hamilton is that the drivers beneath him are not that far away for the P3 fight as well, with Alonso being only 9 points behind, Sainz at 41 and Leclerc at 49. Norris has been making strides and improving race by race, and after his third consecutive podium finish, he now stands at 136 points, ready to join the top 6 fight in the remainder of the 5 venues we have on the calendar. It's obvious that Mercedes have missed out on a massive opportunity, something that Russell has spoken about as well. And while he did accept the apology from his teammate and said that there was nothing much he could do about it as he was caught up in the entire situation, the Brit recognises stuff like this can't happen in the future if they're to win races and championships from 2024 onwards. Even though the main focus of Mercedes is 2024 as we speak, they still tend to finish strong in both of the categories in order to have a greater morale entrance in the upcoming campaign. Elaborating on this entire situation, Russell went on to say, "It is frustrating because it was a big missed opportunity for us. We've got one goal, and that's to finish P2 in the Constructors' Championship. We had a lot of discussions this morning about how we're going to work together. The fight was not with each other and with Ferrari. Fortunately, we still came away with more points than them this weekend, but Lewis and I have huge respect for each other. Nothing was intentional from either side. I definitely appreciate him apologising. As I said on the radio, in every incident, it involves 2 people. I was gutted because of the result for the team. The Drivers' Championship has been a complete disaster. We've had one goal, which was to finish P2 in the Constructors' Championship, and we lost a big opportunity. But I still have full faith that we can achieve it. We still have positivity because the car was quick. We had a really strong race, and we have a few updates coming for the last races of the season." Obviously, Mercedes are not going to throw the towel in just because their main focus is on 2024, and while both of the drivers are aware that their car might not win a race this season and break a record that the team has been keeping alive from 2013 onwards, winning at least one race in the season, this is not something that bugs their minds as much as it should. The next race is Austin, where Mercedes are supposed to bring a huge upgrade package, but will this be enough for them to actually be competitive and have a legitimate shot at winning the race? For this question to be answered, Mercedes needs to issue the intra-team battle that has gotten up to another level between Hamilton and Russell, and the team did exactly that after the race. Elaborating on this, Bradley Lord, who replaces Toto Wolff while the Austrian recovers from a knee injury, said, "Worst possible start, and the worst possible thing that can happen for a race team to see your 2 cars collide. For sure, on lap 1 with George at the back and Lewis in the gravel, things didn't look brilliant at all. To turn that around with George in P4 and outscoring Ferrari on an afternoon was not something we could have hoped for once we were 1 lap into the race. What might have been is clear to see. We were right on the pace of the McLarens, probably not within striking distance of Max, but there's a double podium that could have been today." Ifs, buts and maybes don't really count in this sport, so we will take what we have got and be happy with that, but it could have been so much more. What do you think about the Mercedes verdict on this entire crash? And more importantly, do you think it opened up a door that can't be closed until Mercedes gives both of its drivers a championship winning car? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.